The following is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised.
This is a Geek Bro podcast. What's up, besties? This is episode 60
One more time.
of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes. And guess what, chicken butt? I'm still the second part of that title. Oh boy, I am so excited about today's episode. Today's episode is the very funny and the very talented Alise Morales. Alise is an actress and comedian from New York City. You might know her from Betches Media, from Showtime's Our Cartoon President, or from the roast of your teenage self from the All Things Comedy Network. This was such a great conversation. I feel like Alise and I have so much in common. I feel like she's my sister from another mister in a lot of ways because we're both Cuban, we're both into comedy, and we're both also into talking about people's childhood. So this was something that was destined to happen, and it had to happen. And we had a very lovely conversation about adolescence. I really think that you guys are going to enjoy this episode. So without further ado, please enjoy the very funny, the very talented Alise Morales. Have you been in the entertainment business basically like your whole life, essentially?
No, I would say like I've been in the business, I guess, since I moved to New York, which was like 9 years ago,
Right.
Was when I started really doing things. So I grew up in Fairfax, Virginia from when I was like 12 onward. But before that, my like young years, my parents were in LA because they got married and decided to never live in New Jersey again and moved to LA.
That is so interesting. And this is the other thing that's interesting to me is that you're Cuban.
Yes.
So one of the reasons why I automatically love you as a human being is just because I feel like you and I are the same person in alternate dimensions. You know,
Are you Cuban as well?
100%. But like it's so funny because we're both like the type of people where like we have to tell someone we're Cuban. Like nobody would really.
But I mean, I get this a lot. They're like, "What are you? Like, what's going on?" Because we see the Morales and like you have an interesting nose, your hair is curly. What's happening? And I'm like, I'm Cuban and Italian. And that's how this gets to be.
That's so funny. I love it.
Yeah.
And like, so I was like, man, this girl is a great comedian. Plus she's Cuban and she likes talking to people about childhood. Like this is,
we had to connect.
I was like, I feel like you're my sister, you know, this is amazing.
Who knows? Listen, back on La Isla, maybe we are related somewhere.
Yeah. Who knows, right? Yeah.
A few years ago today, I was actually in Cuba. I went on a trip, and it was amazing. And it was sad to think back that 2 years ago today, I was in Cuba.
Wow. That's nuts. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot more fun to visit than it is to live there. My mom doesn't really have great stories about living there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely difficult.
Yeah.
But it's a great place to go on a trip, and I had a lovely time. And I do know some people who live there and like make it work and like it, but it's tough, and you have to deal with like crazy shit and not having internet access and shortages of stuff. And also, a lot of them are like also American, so they can kind of like bop around, even though you're not really supposed to bop around. So it depends. I think your average Cuban, I probably wouldn't switch. Situation.
Right. And so your parents were in New Jersey and then they went to LA?
Yes.
Because that's interesting because most Cubans are always in South Florida. That's why I'm asking.
Yes. So,
you know,
my dad is the Cuban one. My mom's an Italian girl from Jersey, but my dad came over like really shortly after the revolution. He came over without his parents. They were in Miami for like 3 years, I think, without my grandparents. Then my grandparents were able to come over, and they ended up going to Union City, New Jersey, which at the time was like other Miami. It was like the other place that Cubans were going because there were a lot of jobs there. They actually used to call it Havana on the Hudson.
Interesting.
And that is where he met my mom, and they all kind of grew up in this like scrappy city. At the time my parents were living in it, it was the most diverse city in the U.S. because there were just so many immigrants coming there because there were so many jobs, and that had been going on for a long time. So my mom is kind of a product of like the first wave of immigration there. So she was like Irish, Italian, all that stuff. And then my dad kind of represents this second wave that came in. But as far as how they ended up in LA, basically my parents, first of all, dated for 9 years before they got married. It's like,
holy cow.
Get married.
It's like Corey and Topanga.
It was very Corey and Topanga.
Yeah.
That is true. Because it did start in like high school and then continued on into their 20s. But they went to visit a friend in LA. And while they were out there, they were like, okay, actually, let's just finally get married and then move to LA.
Yeah.
So that's what they did.
That's awesome. So then you were in LA
Till I was 12.
Till you were 12. Okay.
Yeah, so that's like a decent chunk of my existence, but not enough for me to like, I don't really associate myself with LA or know anything. Like, I don't feel from there. And sometimes sometimes I just omit that part of my backstory because I'll tell people that and then they'll try to talk to me about LA. And I'm like, I could tell you where my friend's house was. Like,
Sure.
I don't know anything about Los Angeles, the geography, places there. Like, I do not know.
Man, so that's interesting. I'm the opposite. Like, I feel like I was in LA for a year and that's like all I talk about. It's like a girl.
Well,
it's
now
like
if I go, I act like I know everything about that city. But I lived there for 12 years and came away with zero knowledge about Los Angeles.
That's really funny. What kind of kid would you say that you were growing up? Like, who did you sit with at the lunch table, that kind of thing?
I always had friends. I was a friendly kid, but I think even though I wasn't an only child, because my sister was 5 years younger than me, I felt like I developed only child tendencies. So I could be a very bossy kid. I like to have things my way and play my way. And I was thinking about this recently, like, I could really play on my own and entertain myself solo for like a long time and be very content with that. And I think that skill has reemerged and developed in quarantine and flourished yet again because I can really entertain myself for a long time. And I was like super avid reader as a kid, super into Harry Potter and like the fandom and all that stuff. And so like I had a lot of friends. I would say we were like middling tier popularity level. I always kind of gravitated towards the more like alternative people.
Sure.
But when you're little, that mostly just means like future alt people. Like we didn't know that we would eventually be emo, but all of us did eventually become emo. That's
great. Yeah, I love that. I relate to that really hard. What would you say as a kid were your fandoms? Like you talked about Harry Potter, things like that.
Harry Potter. Yeah. The entire like Friday night Nickelodeon lineup floored me.
Yeah.
All that I loved so much. And I would make videos on my parents' cassette recorder of myself doing Amanda Bynes' Ask Ashley from the night before.
That's amazing.
That was like, when it's funny to think back on that, I'm like, oh, of course I ended up becoming a comedian and wanting to be in entertainment. But then I was just like, I was so mesmerized by how funny I thought those were that I was like, I have to perform it myself.
Amanda Bynes was on another level. Even looking back on it now as an adult, I mean, it's clear why she got her own show. She was a lightning bolt, so good and so talented.
So good. And the Amanda show was so funny. And I still remember like bringing the dancing lobsters.
Yeah.
Or was that an All That thing? Either way.
No, that was Amanda's show.
She carried some characters over.
Right.
Moody's Point, the like fake Dawson's Creek that was on it was so good.
Yeah.
And I always remember, this is like a political awakening moment for me.
Was it? Okay.
I remember that Amanda Bynes had a sketch about the 2000 election.
Really?
In which she was having George W. Bush and Al Gore do a worm eating contest. And she declared George W. Bush the winner of the worm eating contest. But then Al Gore was like, no, some of these worms are half eaten. We need to count all of the worms. And I remember watching that sketch and being like, I understand this.
That is great.
And I also remember it made me think that Al Gore was being very silly.
Yeah.
And I do not think that anymore.
Right.
But for a long time, that sketch like colored my entire understanding of the 2000 election. And I was like, oh, that's the worms election where Al Gore was being such a little whiner about all the worms.
Right.
And it's like, no, actually he won and he should have been president and would save us a lot of problems.
That's so funny because like, it's funny what people take from those shows because it makes so much sense that you took that as a child and then became who you are now. You know what I mean?
I'm the only person who remembers that sketch about the worms from the Amanda Bynes show.
If you were to ask, I was going to say, if you were to ask me, the thing that I remember most about that show is that commercial for a cereal called Snap, Crackle, Kaboom. And you would put milk in the cereal and the cereal would explode. And that makes so much sense with my personality.
Until you said that, I never would have remembered Snap, Crackle, Kaboom. But I do remember Snap, Crackle, Kaboom now. Yeah. And that is very good.
Yeah.
I feel like if we're going to talk about this also, we have to shout out her iconic character, Penelope Tate, the Amanda Bynes fan, who was always played by Amanda Bynes, who was always almost running into Amanda Bynes, which I love.
That was great.
Amanda, please.
Amanda, please. Everything was please. Yeah, I was a real Nick kid as well. I kind of moved around, of course, with like Fox Kids and Disney and all that stuff. But my main, like, if I had to pick a flag to fight for, it would probably be Nickelodeon for sure. Did you watch those game shows too?
Oh, like Legends of the Hidden Temple. Sure. I watched everything. Yeah. Like I would just put Nick on, and I remember that like there were shows that I didn't like, and I was like, yeah, but I guess I have to watch it now because it's what's on. My parents never had like a no TV rule or paid any mind to how much I was consuming on TV, so I could just watch and like. Maybe that was good or bad. Sure. I'm trying to be in television now, so it clearly had an effect.
So they didn't mind you watching TV, but did they mind what you watched on TV?
Sort of. They never put like a parental control on the TV or anything. Sure. But if they came in and I was watching something that they didn't think was good, they would like turn it off or say something. Mm-hmm. Or my dad was like the TV Nazi in our house, and just like if anything was on that he didn't like also when I got older, if he just thought the show was kind of trashy, he wouldn't even turn it off. He would just putz around the house making comments until it became so unpleasant to watch the show that I just stopped watching it.
That sounds like how I act whenever my sister is watching The Bachelor. Like I will comment on these. Actually, she prefers The Bachelorette more than The Bachelor. Is better. But I specifically remember her watching it, and she's like, "Come on, watch this, and maybe you can make jokes and tweet them or whatever." And I was like, "All right, whatever." And then I was just making fun of every single guy, making fun of the idea of like they're trying to pretend, they're trying to, basically say that they believe in these specific things about love that are like this, like, fairy tale thing, but it's like, but also I'm on this very chauvinistic show and I'm going to show you my abs and also the complete opposite of what I just said by all of my actions, Yeah,
the cognitive dissonance of The Bachelor is a lot. It's actually been a while since I've done a Bachelor season. I watched a couple and then I fell off. I love the real reason to watch Bachelor and Bachelorette is so that you know what's going on Bachelor in Paradise, which is where the real juice is, which is, man, they send the rejects from Bachelor and Bachelor in Paradise, the people who didn't win, they send them to an island to have sex with each other.
That sounds about right.
And it's excellent. It's actually a great show.
I'm sure. I'm sure, man. I mean, anybody that grew up watching Real World and all that stuff, like that's like all
Absolutely. Flavor of Love was my favorite reality show back in the day.
Dude.
Oh,
New
and that
York, she was nuts.
she changed reality TV forever, and that was a show. This is like maybe when I'm in like middle, I can't remember. I feel like that came out when I was in middle school. That was a show where like me and my dad would knock down, drag out when he came into the room and saw me watching that because he thought it was so trashy and so horrible. He's not wrong. But I was like, I will not give up Flavor of Love. Like you actually can't take Flavor of Love from me.
There is something really funny about how I absolutely, like me personally, I hate reality TV, but I do remember thinking Flavor of Love was really great. And I remember a few other VH1 reality shows that were fun, like Celebrity Fit Club was fun.
Celebrity Fit Club was good too. Surreal Life was
Surreal
crazy.
Life was fun. Yeah.
Surreal Life I would watch, and then it would also depress me because I was like, oh, why is Greg Brady acting like this now?
Yeah. Yeah. Why is DeBrat getting upset at Screech? You know, like
I'm like, oh no, Vern Troyer has an alcohol problem.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to know about this.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was depressing.
Yeah, it was depressing. It did make me discover Dr. Drew, but it was depressing. You know, we've talked about how you were an emo kid, so that obviously has so much to do with your music taste. So
yes.
Let's talk about music. I feel like we're going to be here for a little while.
So as a young kid, I loved just like regular pop music.
Sure.
So like I remember getting Britney Spears' Baby One More Time, having all the classic 90s CDs. I initially preferred Backstreet Boys to NSYNC and was kind of militant about it, but then sort of once pop came out, I sort of had to begrudgingly recognize that NSYNC had surpassed the Backstreet Boys.
Sure. You mean the Dirty Pop single?
Yes,
Yeah.
That single was really, I mean, Bye 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 was really good, but I was still clinging to Backstreet Boys at that time.
Sure.
And by the time that pop happened, I was like, okay, obviously I think that NSYNC has won the war of the two.
Of course.
Not to diminish any of BSB's contributions.
Of course.
To the genre.
I agree. I was the president and only member of the Backstreet Boys fan club in South Florida.
Who was your favorite one?
Backstreet Boy? I don't know.
Like Howie. That's what I remember. It was, yeah.
I don't know.
Howie was my Backstreet Boy. Posh was my Spice Girl, and Lance was my member of NSYNC.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Let me think. That's a good question.
I never wanted to pick like the most popular one, which was like the beginning of my alt roots.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Even though I knew that like Justin Timberlake is obviously the cutest one, I had to pick a different one. Yeah,
I definitely agree on that. I think my favorite Backstreet Boy was Brian.
Brian was very cute. Big moment for redheads.
Yeah, for redheads. I would actually say that I liked him just because of his voice in general.
And he felt like the leader. Was he the leader of the Backstreet Boys? I felt like he was the leader.
I guess they were all kind of like.
I don't know if they vote on that kind of thing, but he felt like the leader.
I don't think so. I liked him. I liked. I was basic with NSYNC. I like Justin a lot, and I still do. I mean, he's just great.
I mean, at the time, I remember being like, well, I'm not going to like Justin because he's like the most popular one, but it's like Justin's the most popular one for a reason.
Right.
Justin's got the real star power here.
Oh, trust me. Look, as a boy growing up who was really in touch with his feelings way too young. Like I was attracted to girls at 5. Like, you know, like I was in touch with my emotions. I grew up with a single mom, so like I've like only, you know, I have a stepfather now, and I've had him since I was 10, but you know, a lot of my upbringing was very female centric. So I was like, even to this day, like people are asking me all the time, like they're like, hey Mike, I mean, it's okay, but are you gay? And I'm like, no, I'm not. You know. it's, there's nothing wrong with it, but, I don't know. I guess I just give off that vibe, And
that wasn't the implication when I asked who your favorite Backstreet Boy was.
Trust me,
By the way, that was a platonic ask.
Yeah, and it was a platonic answer.
Favorite Backstreet Boy.
It was a platonic answer. This is the thing, is that I'm only doing this for the listener. I know what you're doing. I'm only doing this for the listener. Anyway, all that to say that the reason why I didn't like a lot of those popular guys, like I remember being a kid and hating Leonardo DiCaprio because all the girls thought he was cute. And that's the only reason why I hated him. That's it.
Yeah. And like, I would develop that, like, once you hit a certain age as a girl, you get into like, oh, girls get pit against each other world.
Yeah.
And so once I hit 12, I started hating all the pop princesses, thinking they were all sluts and and like just being very, I started to get like antagonistic. But when I was younger and I was pure, I loved them. And now as an adult, I love them again.
But I just find it so funny because, especially as a kid, you don't realize that even in your rebellion, you're still getting fed by the system, because you're like, I hate pop princesses. I'm going to listen to Avril Lavigne, the pop princess with a guitar. Like,
exactly. And it's like
the same thing.
Right. It's like, oh, I don't fuck with pop music, but all of the like records I'm listening to are the same producers, the same label, the same people are getting money put in their pocket, kiddo.
Yeah.
It's not as punk as you think you are.
It is hilarious, man. I love it. So you grew up with pop music, and then when did the emo swerve happen?
So I have a very vivid memory of my friend Christina lending me Green Day Dookie on the bus. And she was like, don't play it in front of your parents because it's explicit. I'm sorry, I have to amend the story. She burned a copy of it for me. That's like an important thing. And she was like, don't listen to it in front of your parents. So I went home, and my parents weren't home because around 6th grade, I would come home in the afternoon and my parents wouldn't be home from work yet. So I listened to Dookie, and I was like, okay, that was amazing. I loved that. And then I went into the backyard and smashed the CD with a hammer. So my parents wouldn't hear it and know that I had listened to Dookie.
It broke all the evidence. That's great.
I was like, well, I loved that, but sadly, I must destroy it.
What?
And I smashed it with a hammer. And then it would be probably about a year, and we would move to Virginia. And there was something about that move that brought the emo out. Mm-hmm. I wasn't even sad about the move. I was actually happy because I went to like a weird Christian private school in LA, and I didn't like it. Okay. And when I went to Virginia, I went to a public school that had its own problems, but they were different, and I liked that. So it was, I don't know. I think it was part of like, I'm going to come from California and I'm going to be like this cool girl from California. That was like my plan for 7th grade. And I think the music fed into that. And so that at that point, also I think Good Charlotte popped onto the scene at that point. And I fucking loved Good Charlotte. Oh my God. I thought they were so cute. I loved their voices. I loved all of it.
Yeah. And this was, I'm assuming, Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I would listen to that CD so much.
Yeah. I think that was around the time that I started getting into that stuff as well. And I also think that's the time when that brand of music started becoming very mainstream. So,
yes, because prior to that, I was like into Blink-182 and aware of them, but they felt adult and like scary to me because I knew that they like said curse words, and I was like a little young for the curse words. But as evidenced by me smashing Dookie to pieces,
as opposed to you like Gallaghering Green Day's Dookie.
I mean, the most hilarious part of that is the idea that my parents are gonna see the CD and listen to it like
Listen,
Like-
we're all like, as kids, we're all dumb. Let me tell you my story about that kind of stuff that is similar. I grew up in a very conservative Christian home, so I wasn't allowed to watch many things, listen to many things, all that kind of stuff. In fact, the first like secular CD that I got my mom to buy it for me because I got her to think that the band name Newfound Glory was Christian. And so
That's amazing. Newfound Glory is a good one to pretend is Christian.
you can get away with a lot. 9 Inch Nails. I mean, it goes, a whole bunch of stuff. You can get real creative with it for sure. And so one of the things that I would do is like, and through Newfound Glory, I found Something Corporate, and I found Finch and all these different Drive Thru Records bands. And, that was my fandom, was Drive Thru Records and Tooth and Nail Records and, all that kind of stuff. But if a CD had a parental advisory on it, I would get scissors and cut the parental advisory off of the lyric book, never thinking that my parents would look through my lyric books and be like, why is there a weird cut in this lyric book?
In the exact place where the parental advisory sticker goes.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Man, and this is something I was just thinking about maybe like a couple of days ago. Do you remember those like 250 like CD Trapper Keeper things?
Oh my God. And I would like reorganize mine based on different like things.
Oh,
sometimes. Mine was like a pink zip up thing that was like that kind of like see-through plastic material that would be on a binder.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. The CD I always remember flipping through that and seeing was NoFX, the one that was George Bush's face as a clown on on the actual CD. That is the CD that I associate with my CD book. Like if I open it, I think about the George Bush clown face.
Man, it's so funny how like
War on Errorism was the name of that CD.
War on Errorism. Yeah. And like, man, those binders were like your personality back in the day. It's nuts.
Oh, yeah. And people would like have them in their car too. Like I would remember if you
those
like
sun visor CD holders.
Yes. Oh my God. A lost art.
Yeah.
Such a lost art.
It really is. It's weird, but like, not to sound like an old man or anything, but like there is something that we're kind of missing out on by everything being digital. It's great that everything's digital because now we can listen to everything, but it's also not great because we can listen to everything, Yeah,
like the joys of getting a CD and looking at the liner notes and all of that stuff is like, I mean, whatever. I guess it's just part of society moving forward.
Yeah,
but
I mean, do
kids give each other? Do they make playlists for each other? Do they make each other mixtapes?
I would hope so.
I was big into making mixed CDs, and me and my friends were always trading mixed CDs.
That's
always.
amazing. I love that. What kind of stuff? Like moody stuff or?
Usually other like pop punk emo stuff that we would find on LimeWire. So like all of us would be kind of like sharing. I just remember me and my friend Megan gave each other a lot of CDs. And I kept up the mixed CD game like into college as sort of like a novelty thing that I would do. But then like you can't even burn CDs on your computer.
Yeah, I know.
Like that's not even a thing. You
can make playlists and stuff like that, but like I feel like there's just way less of a chance that someone's going to listen to it.
Right? Like are boys giving mixed CDs to girls anymore?
No.
Is that happening?
Boys aren't even looking at girls in the eyes when they talk to them.
I was like, if me and a boy were vibing, like he would know because I gave him a mixed CD and I would present him with the mixed CD and like I would make a little cute cover for it and it would be like, now you know that shit's serious.
That's so funny.
And there were times where I made a mixed CD for someone who didn't have mixed CD feelings about me, and that's a sad day.
Yeah, that's not fun.
That feels like shit.
Oh my gosh. So So like what, so Good Charlotte started it for you. I would say it was around that time for me. So like Good Charlotte, Simple Plan, that kind of stuff. Where like,
and Blink-182 had been out for a while at that point, but that's when I like retroactively got into Blink-182.
Right.
And I remember like one summer, my parents we drove to the Jersey Shore and listening to Take Off Your Pants and Jacket and like staring at the Jersey Turnpike as we drove.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Just a beautiful memory.
Were you a Warped Tour kid? Did you go to Warped Tour?
I did go to Warped Tour.
There you
I
go.
went to Warped Tour in 2004
Okay.
at Merriweather Post Pavilion. And I got too hot during Taking Back Sunday, and I had my mom come pick me up.
Oh, no.
Really punk, really hardcore, cool time.
Yeah, it was 10:30.
Yeah, it was
in the morning.
I remember like going and I was so excited, and then actually it's like a really hot all day outdoor concert.
Yeah.
And most people are getting through it because they're fucked up. But I was like 14, so I was just like, oh man, I really could use some water.
Yeah, I know.
Oh geez, these people are getting kind of rowdy.
Yeah. Was that the only Warped Tour you went to?
That was the only one that I went to. I also went to HF Festival, which was more like local to my area, but a similar vibe, and saw the Foo Fighters there. So, yeah, but that was my only Warped Tour, and it was in like 2004, I think. And I remember seeing Taking Back Sunday, the Bouncing Souls. God, who else did I see? I don't even remember. The Dropkick Murphys, those like Irish mean bands.
Yeah. The Departed band.
There. Yeah.
I went to Warped Tour so many times. I can't remember what years I went. It was probably around 2004, if not 2005, maybe was my first. And then I went till like maybe the year before the very last year. And that was like walking around and I'm like, I'm too old for this. Like, there's no reason to be doing this anymore. It's too hot. There's like two bands I like. Why am I even here?
I saw something recently, years ago, I remember, that was like an ad for a Vans Warped Tour cruise.
Right.
And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I can't be this old that we're doing the Vans Warped Tour cruise. Like, that can't be where we're at as a society.
Is that a telltale sign that we're getting old, that like that Blink-182 is getting a residency in Vegas?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, it's gotta be, right? I mean, holy cow. Did the emo phase kind of go till basically now? Like, is that like basically who you are?
Yes. In a way, like the emo phase morphed into being a hipster, into being whatever you would call me now. I feel like we don't use the term hipster anymore, but I'm like still a hipster, I guess.
I relate to you in that just naturally throughout the course of like listening to different music and watching styles change, I developed my own sense of fashion and what I like and how I like my hair to look and things like that. And then people just started calling me these things. And it was like, I don't know, man.
I remember, like, I mean, when I was in like college and stuff, people were very concerned with hipsters, and like people hated hipsters, or I don't know. It was just like very much in the air to like think about hipsters and talk about them. And now I feel like the hipster has just integrated fully into society, and we're not concerned with them anymore. Yeah,
because all they want to do is give you a 1975 CD. That's all they really want to do.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, that guy's got a bun. He's on a unicycle. He's not bothering anybody. Just let him roll by.
That's so funny.
He's doing what he's doing in Williamsburg. Just leave him alone.
Sure, he travels by railroad, and he does that seesaw thing, and he needs to have someone ask him to travel with him to get home, but he's not hurting anyone.
No, he's really not. We've got way bigger fish to fry. Yeah, I feel like the moral panic around hipsters ended when like everything just went to shit, and it's like, oh, we can't care about hipsters right now.
Of course. Yeah.
going on.
There's way bigger fish to fry than so much about what we get upset about. Movie politics and whether or not somebody saying something 25 years ago is right or wrong or whatever the case.
I can't get involved in like canceling someone who's been dead for 50 years. I'm like, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, they were problematic in life. That sucks.
Yeah. It's
hopefully someone talked to them about that in the great beyond.
Yeah. Hey, I don't want to get political here, but I don't know if you guys have read about this guy Adolf Hitler. He was kind of a kook, if you ask me.
He was horrible.
Yeah,
that's what I heard. That's what I read.
I've been hearing that guy was a real clown.
I love the idea of calling Hitler a clown. Just using like insults like that on him. What a dork.
Yeah, he was such a hipster, you know? That's what he was. He was such a hipster. So moving on to the next bit here, and I know that you're a snack person. What are your favorite snacks, and what were your favorite snacks growing up?
Ooh, my favorite snacks growing up. Well, I have a really distinct memory of eating a whole tray of those Ferrero Rocher balls. You know those chocolate caramel filled?
Oh yeah, the one that looks like only the Queen eats them.
Yeah, they come in the gold thing.
They like make you change into a British accent when you eat it.
Yeah, my parents bought those for guests or something.
It had to have been.
And I climbed up to the top of the refrigerator and I ate them all, and it made me so sick.
Oh, I'm sure. That hazelnut spread gets to you.
You're not supposed to eat more than one of those. Yeah. And I went crazy and I ate the entire tray of Ferrero Rochers. And then I didn't even get in trouble because like the illness that befell me from doing that was my parents were like, well, she's definitely not going to do that again. I was like, I can feel the sickness in me when I think back to the day that I was sick from eating all the Ferrero Rochers.
Oh my gosh.
Like I feel it in my stomach.
That's
so
crazy.
Definitely for a time Ferrero Rochers, and then there was a hard stop on that. Always a fan of Flaming Hot Cheetos.
Yeah.
Always loved them. Me and my friend Sue would like always walk and go, and that was like our thing that we would go pick up was Flaming Hot Cheetos and a vanilla Coke. And that was like our snack. And now also can't eat either of those things without fully shitting myself. So
sure.
like that's not gonna happen. But
yeah,
I do remember Flaming Hot Cheetos fondly. And I was a huge just full sugar regular Coke or vanilla Coke person.
Yeah.
Loved it.
One of the things that we like to do on this podcast is we like to talk about cereal, because I feel like cereal is a all-encompassing food that describes childhood in a lot of ways. Are you a cereal fan?
I'm a cereal fan, was a cereal fan.
Yeah.
Big fan of the Pebbles, both cocoa and fruity. I love a Pebble.
Yeah, regular Pebbles are not good. I've had those before.
I love a Pebble, but my constant struggle as a child is that my mom was sort of into healthy eating, like not crazy, but enough that like she wouldn't let me always get the cereal that I wanted. And she kind of started to phase out the sugary cereal. And then she started switching us to soy milk, which I really didn't like at all. And so she kind of interrupted my cereal development, though sometimes as a treat we would get those variety packs. I fucking loved the little square variety pack.
Oh, I know, right? I feel like all those little boxes of cereal always bring back childhood memories for some reason.
Yes.
I feel like a kid.
There was something so fun about the variety pack, and then like it would be me and my sister, and we would like choose which ones, and the apple smacks would like always be left.
Oh, really? Mine was always plain Cheerios that was always left. There was like 14 plain Cheerios boxes.
Ours was always the like, it had a frog on it, Smacks.
Yeah, Honey Smacks, yeah.
And they were like sticky. I didn't like Smacks.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Smacks, like why would I feel like Smacks didn't even deserve to be in there with all the heavy hitters that they would put in the variety pack. Smacks, it was like,
it feels like a cereal they ate in the Civil War. Like,
right?
it's
and
so
who's
like,
this frog? Why is this frog next to Tony the Tiger, an icon of the industry?
Exactly.
And no one knows who this frog is.
And why does he get to hold the spoon? Like, shouldn't it be anyone else? You know?
I didn't know. Yeah, like, it just didn't feel... Smacks was always an outlier. Honey Nut Cheerios was always felt like a cereal for adults to me.
Yeah.
But it deserves its place in the variety pack, I feel, because
I agree
of
with
its
you.
contributions to the genre of cereal.
I definitely agree with you there. It is healthy enough, but it's also like sweet enough that you don't feel like you're like, this tastes good, that I'm lowering my cholesterol. You know what I mean?
Yes. We all recognize that bee.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know his name, but he's an iconic bee. Whereas, I'm still on the Smackers. Do they exist outside of the variety pack?
Yeah, Honey Smacks definitely exist. My whole thing is like, I just don't understand why they keep making it, because I don't think anyone's buying it.
Listen, it was always the last thing to go in my variety pack.
Yeah.
And
It's always full. It's always full to the brim when you go to the grocery store. Like, you know how like when you look at cereals and it's like there's a couple boxes left of Cookie Crisp and you're like, oh, like that's a popular cereal.
Yes.
You know, Honey Smacks is always to the front.
Yeah, anyone who actually likes Honey Smacks is never gonna have an issue with that.
They like Civil War reenactments. That anybody who likes Honey Smacks definitely goes to Civil War reenactments.
Sticky cereal. Why? Cookie Crisp. Funny that you bring those up. That was like a big point of contention between me and my mom, because I wanted to try Cookie Crisp so bad. Those commercials got me. So like Cookie Crisp.
Yeah.
Like I wanted Cookie Crisp. And my mom
those commercials
rightfully was like, it's actually insane for you to eat a bowl of cookies in the morning.
Yes.
And so she would not let me have Cookie Crisp, and I wanted it so bad.
Yeah, did you ever have them like after when you...
I eventually did have them, and it was kind of like, I remember being disappointed. It was like underwhelmed because it had like built up too much.
Of course. Those commercials made it seem like so much. Well, first of all, my first thought, I don't know if you remember them, but it was like the little like werewolf, or I don't know if he was a werewolf or a dog. It's a werewolf, and he was getting caught by the police or something. It was the first defund the police commercial. It was very ahead of its time.
A lot of the cereal mascots were on the run.
Yeah.
People were trying to get them. Like,
we liked people who stole food, like the Hamburglar, the Cookie Crisp.
There were so many characters.
Yeah, so many characters.
Food-related characters that were on the lam.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how, like, you know, looking back at like a lot of those commercials, really any commercial from when you were a kid for snacks, it's crazy that we found any of it appetizing.
And it really, like, I really wanted Cookie Crisp.
Sure.
Very badly.
And it's
Their
funny.
advertising worked.
It's funny now because, like, you know, I don't know if you remember this. I've talked about this many times on the podcast, but like when we were kids, a very popular thing was mystery flavors. You remember that?
Oh, yes, which is why?
Yeah, it's insane to think about it now. Like, it's like, why do I have to tell you? Like, you tell me what this is. I'm not putting it in my body if you don't tell me what it is. It could be gasoline.
It's very Bertie Bott's every flavor beans thing.
Yeah.
Why do you, I don't want to be surprised about the flavor of something that's going in my mouth. I actually want to have a pretty good idea of how something tastes before. Like, I don't fuck with those grapes that taste like other fruit. I don't like that.
I don't like that either.
It confuses my mind.
Well, not only that, but like, why do I want jelly beans that taste accurate to like caca stains? You know what I mean?
No, and it's really my curse as a longtime Harry Potter fan,
right?
Is that people are always giving me fucking Bertie Bott's every flavor beans, and I'm like, I don't even like jelly beans. I don't want these, and I especially don't want jelly beans that taste like ass.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
why would I want?
Yeah.
I don't even like jelly beans. Why would I want a jelly bean that tastes like grass from the field, or like
That's
fucking
true.
a donkey's shoe? Like, I don't need that.
That's great. Could you imagine a meeting at the Jelly Belly headquarters that's just like, we need to sell the millennials. Let's get an ass flavored jelly bean. They love eating ass. Let's get them.
How do we make this edgy?
Yeah.
Oh God.
So moving on, every episode of this podcast, I like to review a box of cereal with my guest. I know it's kind of difficult to review a cereal since we're Zoom conferencing, but we can use our imaginations.
Okay.
Now, every cereal that I choose, I usually like to pick a cereal that has something to do with my guest in some way, shape, or form. So I spoke with my sponsors over at General Mills.
Amazing.
Now, by sponsor, I mean that I like them and I buy their products. And by spoke to, I mean that I tweeted them repeatedly and they never got back to me. So the cereal that I got for you is Sesame Street cereal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. C is for cinnamon.
C is for cinnamon, yes. So this is the reason why I got it for you. I actually got it for you because in the back there's a story here. And I feel like Elmo and Abby here, who I just realized that's what her name is by reading the story. I didn't know who that was. That they are
I was not familiar with Abby either.
Yeah,
don't worry.
they're supposed to be like the little kids of like the monsters, you know, like because all the Sesame Street characters are supposed to be monsters or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like you and I are the monsters of the little kids.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, of comedy.
We're both Cuban.
Yeah, we're both Cuban, and the good thing
we
is
both kind of look like that.
Yeah, and Abby speaks Spanish, which is great.
Well, that's beautiful. Abby's Spanish is probably a little better than mine. I was a Spanish major, but I still did not become fluent. So.
You're not fluent?
I am not.
Oh my gosh.
I'm good. Like, I can get myself from place to place and get myself around if need be. But because my mom didn't speak Spanish, we didn't like speak it in my house because it wouldn't really make sense to do so.
Right. No, I agree.
It would be rude if me and my dad were speaking Spanish.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But there is a little story here called Elmo Visits the Farm, or Elmo Visita la Granja. Yeah. So I'm assuming it has something to do with them going to a farm.
To the farm.
So yeah, and they get to do all the little animal sounds and all that kind of stuff. I had some of this cereal. It is like a cinnamon flavored alphabets, essentially, if that makes any sense. So it tastes like the grain from Lucky Charms. It's not my personal favorite. And also, fun fact, this is the only cereal that has made me break out in hives. So,
what?
Yeah.
I wonder what they got in there.
I have no idea, but H is for
going
hives.
See, here's my thing. I just feel like, and this is my note to the people at Sesame Street.
Yeah.
You can't do cinnamon cereal.
Yeah.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch did it.
Yeah.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch cornered the market.
I agree.
Anyone who wants cinnamon cereal is getting Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah, and if you want hives, get this cereal. Because
they should lean into the hive.
Yeah, lean into
Cinnamon Toast Crunch doesn't offer that.
Lean into the hives, exactly, and then put another Sesame Street character on Benadryl or something. You know, like, that makes it way better. And then you also get someone to buy two products.
Right?
Hey, I'm giving them all the business ideas.
See, that's what they need to be doing, because if all you're bringing to the table is alphabet and cinnamon, I can get both of those things with better cereal.
Yes, 100%. So I think that it would be fun for us to review this cereal together, which we've already kind of done, but I think it would be more fun to review this cereal as Elmo and Abby. So I'm going to
I'll use my Spanish.
Yeah, I'm gonna play some Sesame Street music here, and we're gonna review this thing, or you know what? We can't really review it. Let's just do like a faux commercial for it.
Okay, great.
As these characters, and I'll definitely help you out because I'm a silly goose, and why not? You know. Can you hear that? Okay. Whenever you are ready.
Okay. Oye, Elmo.
Hey, Abby.
Este cereal es basura, ¿no?
Sí, es B for basura.
I'm not gonna do this. All I knew how to do was be like, Oye, Elmo.
The most Cuban of all time. Just like, oye, dale, Elmo,
Oye,
ven acá.
coño.
Ven acá, Elmo, por favor. Ven acá.
Ven acá, Elmo.
Oye, coño carajo, Elmo, mira.
Pero this cereal no me gusta.
No te gusta? Bueno,
No.
see, if you like hives, you can go get the cereal over at whatever grocery store if you'd like. And
Elmo, tienes bumps. And
see,
and you're on your Elmo, oh my
tienes
God.
bumps.
Elmo.
That is so
Tienes
Cuban.
This went well.
Tienes
This was
bumps, mira.
good. Tienes bumps is
Mira,
Spanish.
tienes que ir a hospital. That's great. Sesame Street cereal, ladies and gentlemen, we did it. They said it couldn't be done. They were probably right, but we did it. Oh my goodness.
That was fun. I like Abby.
This episode of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes is brought to you by the Crunch Cup. Save time in the morning by taking your cereal on the go. Simply add cereal to the inner cup, milk into the outer cup, screw on the lid, and you're ready to crunch. Eat cereal in the car, at your desk, or anywhere else you want. Go to thecrunchcup.com to purchase what I think is a genius invention and use the discount code MikeValdez10. That's Mike, M-I-K-E, Valdez, V-A-L-D-E-S, the number 10, to save 10% off of your order. You can also sign up for their monthly giveaway to win a year's supply of cereal. So what are you waiting for? Go to thecrunchcup.com and use promo code MikeValdez10 to save 10% off of your order. The Crunch Cup. It's better than spooning. This episode of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes is also brought to you by Real Good Foods. If you're a long-time Childlike at Best listener, you know about Real Good Foods. They have incredibly tasty, low-carb, keto-friendly meals like cauliflower crust pizza, stuffed chicken, breakfast sandwiches, and ice cream. But now Real Good Foods has a brand new product. Low-carb, high-protein entree bowls. And look, I'm talking chicken lasagna, lemon chicken, Mongolian beef, creamy carbonara, cauliflower mash and braised beef. I mean, guys, this is absolutely incredible. And during this time of lockdown, it is really nice to just have something that you can throw in the microwave and know that you're actually getting good ingredients and it's actually tasty as well. So check out realgoodfoods.com and use the promo code BESTIE to save 15% off of your order. That's realgoodfoods.com. Use promo code BESTIE to save 15% off of your order at checkout. Real Good Foods. Keep it real. I want to move on into what you're doing now. When did you start performing?
When I was little, I got into like being a performer super little. I did like a play in first grade and I was hooked. So when I was in LA, I actually took children's acting classes at the Lee Strasberg Academy.
Wow.
Absurd. We did a play of The Hobbit and I was a dwarf. And then we moved to Virginia. That kind of put my acting career on hold.
Okay.
The industry, not really in Fairfax County, Virginia. So then I sort of pivoted to just being your average theater kid, very involved in all the plays at my school and all that jazz. Then when I went to college, I was like an international relations and Spanish major. I just didn't think about pursuing acting. I didn't know about pursuing comedy. Like I just didn't think that I could really.
Right.
Even though like going to theater school and stuff never really crossed my mind for some reason, which is strange to me because I was very involved and I don't know. But once I got to school, I joined the improv team. because I became friends with some people who were on the improv team, and then I joined it. And that is where I like actually made the decision where I was like, oh, I want to do comedy as my thing, like as my career for my life. And I think part of that was because people who were older than me on the improv team, I saw them move to New York and start doing comedy. So I like understood, oh, okay, like that's how this is done. At that time, it was mostly just people moving to New York and starting UCB stuff. So I was like, okay, that's what I'll do. And so once I graduated, I came to New York and just immediately started doing comedy, left my degree behind immediately. Like I had made the choice that I was going to come up and do this by the end of my junior year. And so a lot of my senior year was me just like itching to get to the city. I was so ready to start trying. And like, I was obsessed. I was listening to Mark Maron's podcast a lot at that time. And then that was right when You Made It Weird, the Pete Holmes podcast came out.
Yeah.
And I was constantly listening to both of those and just being like, put me in, coach. Like, I want to get to New York and start doing comedy and make my comedy friends and all this stuff. So yeah, that was kind of how I got my start.
That's really awesome. I love that. And this was after college, you said, right?
Yeah, I moved literally straight from my house that I lived in senior year, packed up and moved right to New York.
Holy
so this
cow,
was like
that's great.
2012. I drove straight from University of Delaware to my first apartment in the city.
So let me ask you this, for lack of a better term, were you just like, I've got 500 headshots and a dream and I don't really care what anybody says about it? Or were you like, I need to be financially ready and like, you know, this type of thing?
Oh, no. I'm still paying off the credit card that I maxed out that first year in New York.
Yeah.
By paying my rent on it, which is not something that I would suggest anyone do. But no, I was just like, first of all, this blind confidence that I honestly like, I've been trying to like work to tap into that person more, because I truly showed up to New York and I was like, well, it's just a matter of me getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will be a famous comedian.
Mm-hmm. And
that fueled me through the first couple of years, which were hard. And I would run out of money all the time and have to hop the subway. And like, it wasn't good. And I was working constantly and just like really just like living a trash life. But the late night shows and the comedy of it all and the pursuit of the dream kind of like kept me going until I got to a place where I actually could do this as my career.
Of course. When you got to New York, did you immediately start looking for representation and like that kind of stuff? Or did you not know what you were doing? Or?
I didn't know anything about the industry. I had no idea how that happened.
Right.
So my big game plan was I was like, I'm just going to take UCB 101 and try to move up through UCB and learn through there. So I didn't get representation until I guess like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was after I'd already gotten on a UCB team.
Yeah.
Because my manager came and saw me at UCB. So it like... but I also I wasn't really concerned with that because I didn't know. Like, I didn't know anything about the industry. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because I think if I had shown up really industry minded, I would have gotten discouraged a lot faster, because there's so much of that stuff you have to like wait for it to come to you.
Yeah.
And so I think that by the time I like really learned what the industry was and how to do things and how to meet with managers and get representation and go on auditions, I was actually ready to be doing those things. And I actually had people who wanted to talk to me. Whereas if I had just shown up in New York with like $3,
right,
being like, 2 bags, 1 me, it wouldn't, I think I might've gotten discouraged a lot faster.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's something about being any kind of performer, but especially an actor or a comedian or anything like that, where you're constantly, especially something like acting, because you're constantly being judged, and that judgment is whether or not you can do a job, as opposed to a regular person who just goes through one interview and then they can work at Kinko's for 25 years and that's it.
Exactly. And also, I mean, the craziest part of being an actor too is like you go on general meetings, mm-hmm. which is basically a job interview where there's no job.
Yeah.
Like you do a job interview for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully someday maybe there will be a job
Mm-hmm.
and they'll think about you. Like,
yeah, it's nuts. But like, it's going back to what you were talking about having that, like, about being wide-eyed and things like that. I feel like it's so important as a performer to have that sense of childlike wonder, which is why I'm so enthusiastic, but also just eager to learn about people's childhood. And that's what I care about so much, because that really defines who you are as a performer, as an adult, but especially as an actor and that kind of stuff, or as a performer in general. Because if you didn't have that childlike wonder, like, I mean, so much of life is just unlearning what you already didn't know when you were a kid, you know?
Yeah, and like, I mean, I think back to it and like, if my parents hadn't filmed me doing all those Amanda Bynes things and been like, yeah, this is really funny, maybe I wouldn't have had that, you know, confidence later, that sort of like, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to make it work confidence, because they instilled it in me so young, being like, yes, you're as good as Amanda Bynes.
Right.
And I'm like, I am.
It's so true. And like, it's funny, man, like, you know, performing is like this weird graph where 50% of you is just like, I'm utter garbage. And then the other 50% is I'm a god. And then you're just this line in the middle, you know, where it's like you could be any or.
I know, and you have to force yourself to tip into that other place.
Oh, 100%.
Even when you're not feeling it, and when you're really in the like, I'm a piece of shit place, you have to get yourself into that I'm a god headspace. And sometimes you can't, and you have a bad show, and that sucks.
Yeah, of course. I mean, so much, and especially in comedy, because comedy is like, it's like a kid that is afraid of dogs and like has to pet a pit bull, you know? And the whole thing, you know, when you're a kid, that people tell you is like, they can sense fear. That's pretty much like the audience, without realizing it, the audience can sense that you're not confident.
Oh, yeah. If you're not ready to go out there, they'll know. And if you are ready and you're confident, they'll also know.
Yeah, it is a weird thing, but like, you have to give them this confidence that you can fly this plane and you're going to get them to the destination safely, you know?
Absolutely.
And at any point, if they feel like this journey is not working, they're just like, sometimes they're willing to let you kind of go weird places, because that's what comedy is, and that's what art is taking things to a weird place. But if you're good at your job, you can get yourself out of that 9-foot hole that you dug yourself into.
Yeah.
You know?
And for the most part, the audience wants you to be good. They don't want you to be bad. I mean,
yeah, they paid
whatever.
money.
I'm sure
and
there
if
are
they
hostile
didn't,
audiences sometimes, but for the most part, like, they don't want to watch a shitty show, and they don't want you to make them feel awkward and weird, or to watch you bomb, because that's horrible for them. So they want you to do good.
Of course. Yeah. They, no matter what, they paid to see you, whether they paid their own money or they paid their own time. They came to see you. Other than those shows that you do at a restaurant and then, you know, you're just interrupting someone's dinner, which happens a lot.
Yes. I mean, that is where you're in a situation where it might not be your fault that the show is not good.
Sure. Yeah.
I've done a show in like an active restaurant before, and I'm like, you know what?
I've done one in an active laundromat. Yeah, try to make people laugh while they're trying to separate their whites and their colors.
Yeah, maybe I don't feel so bad that I didn't win over like the old woman in the corner who's just trying to like put quarters in the machine.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, she doesn't care about your stupid like sidekick joke. And not to mention, like, and you know, just to give you an insight on like what I talk about on stage, I already have a hard time getting people to be interested in the fact that I'm talking about Full House, much less getting someone who is doing their laundry to care about me talking about Full House.
Right? Someone who's like, I'm here to watch people talk about the various things they think about. You have to get them on board. Then it's like, this person is literally here to do a chore and they have headphones in. So,
Yeah. They have headphones in. Yes.
they're not here.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
can't wait for those shows to come back though. Damn, I would do a show in a laundromat today anytime.
Yeah, I'm lucky in that there have been a few outdoor events that I've been able to do. I'm actually doing one tomorrow.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did like one outdoor show before it got cold again, but
Yeah,
I
New
just can't
York
wait
is
for
tough,
live.
man, because it's really freaking cold right now. So it's like tough to
Yeah.
do outdoor shows for sure.
and rainy and windy. Like it's just not pleasant to be outside really at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the South Florida is kind of the same, but the opposite, to where it's like super, super hot. And so that's
And
unpleasant, you know, but, and also it's like 1,000% humidity. So you feel disgusting. You feel like a ball sack all the time. Like it's just the worst.
That's the other thing in New York with the summer shows too, though. Is like it gets humid as hell, and then you're like sticky and nasty.
Yeah, it's all sticky. You're all honey smacks, you know? Like
yeah, exactly. You feel like honey snack.
you feel like honey smacks. It's so weird. I don't know, man, because like the shows are so far apart that I just feel it feels weird. Like, did you feel weird doing comedy the last time you did it?
Yeah, I mean, it felt weird for so many reasons because it was like the first time I had gone up. I was like in Central Park. It was nighttime. It was dark. Like we're not going to get the same thing back until we can have shows at venues again. And it's a bummer, but that's the way it is. And like the Roast of Your Teenage Self started as a live show, and I've toured the live show and all this stuff, and it's so wild to think back to like previous years. Oh my God, someone is here to deliver something for me. Give me one second.
No, go for it. Yeah, do your thing.
A few moments later.
Okay, I'm back. That was fully my weed delivery guy. I'm so sorry.
No, I was gonna ask you if that's what it was. That's okay.
I thought that he was coming later. He came now.
You're all good. You're all good. I want to start talking about the Roast of Your 15-year-old self. What inspired that idea for you?
The inspiration came from one day I was like, I don't know, just like putzing around on my Facebook, and I found this old album that I had saved and made visible to only myself. That was all my old MySpace photos. Yeah. And they were so funny, and they were so like cringy and embarrassing. And it just made me think, I was like, I really have to do something with these. And so I kind of came up with this idea, like, okay, what if I roasted myself? And at that time I was hosting tons of shows. That was my bread and butter at that time, was just like hosting shows. So I was like, well, why don't I make it a show and invite other comedians to show pictures? Like, I'm sure other people have this. And it just kind of like exploded from there. And people really, like, as soon as I started doing the show, people were coming out of the woodwork being like, oh, I want to do it. I have something. People like, even to this day, comedians will like DM me an image of themselves and be like, can I please do your show to talk about this picture? Like, right. And I'll be like, I know it's really funny. I get a lot of messages that are like, hey, I hope this isn't too presumptuous, but I just wanted to let you know I have XYZ insane thing about me from high school, and I'd love to talk about it on your show. And I'm like, that's amazing.
That is.
So that's something I was able to do a lot more on the live show, which is a bummer. Like, there are all these people that I still had that I wanted to get on the live show that it's just like kind of in limbo until it comes back.
Right. The good thing is, regardless of it not being a live show, it's a podcast now.
Yeah, and that was in the works to happen before quarantine went down. Mm-hmm. But I was actually going to go out to LA, do the live show, record a live show, and then record a bunch of episodes at All Things Comedy's studio out there in person with people. All of that obviously had to get like changed and reworked and stuff. Right. But it's been really nice to have that to work on in this time.
Yeah, as soon as I found it, which I believe you started doing video for it on episode 1, right?
Yeah. We've always had like the video side of it, just because it's so fun for people to be able to see the pictures if they can.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I subscribe to the All Things Comedy YouTube, so that's how I found it. And then that's how I found you. And then I started going down the rabbit hole of your comedy and things like that. And then I just became a fan of you as a human being. And so,
thank you. That's awesome, because I get scared to look at the YouTube sometimes, because YouTube is scary to me.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm always afraid. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look at this and it's gonna be like 10 people being like, your voice sucks, you're ugly, and I'm like, I just can't do that.
I gotta be honest, man. I mean, every time I see a friend's YouTube video, and like you or Christy Cello, who you've had on your show, or anyone, any comedian who has a video that went like semi-viral in some way, shape, or form, and there's even one negative comment, I'm like, I'm going to kill this person. Every time. So like, if I feel that way about you, then like, imagine how I feel that way about myself.
It's so, like, I just can't even, YouTube I can't look at, because there's so many times where I've seen, like, I've had a friend like release like the funniest stand-up clip. It's so good. They're so polished. This is a comedian I love. And whatever, and then I'll look at Comedy Central's YouTube, like the comments are all like, wow, this person sucks ass, they're horrible, wow, this person's voice is shit, their jokes suck, da-da-da. And I'm like, seeing that has helped me, because it's helped me to contextualize when people say crazy shit like that to me. But it's also like, it's wild, man. Like, you'll watch something that's so funny and so good, and all the comments are just people being like, wow, this stand-up sucks.
Yeah,
like,
I couldn't agree with you more. And like, part of me likes to imagine that a lot of those comments are comedians that aren't successful.
Yeah, and also a lot of them are truly 12-year-olds.
Yeah,
like
that's
actual
probably true.
Children who just like to comment mean stuff. I was just talking about this on an episode of the roast the other day, but I remember very vividly when I was in my youth posting on an anime forum, anime is gay.
Yeah.
For no reason. For no reason. First of all, homophobic and fucked up thing to say, but
Right.
also I didn't know anything about anime. I didn't even really know what it was. I just posted it to be controversial.
Sure.
And so sometimes I do think it's that. It's like it's other kids, just as I was, posting their version of anime is gay.
Yeah, it sucks, man. I don't like it. I don't like YouTube for that reason.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. I just don't like it. I don't like it when people say mean things to other people, especially if I love them. And I don't like people saying mean things to me. Who knows? Maybe it's because I'm actually a Disney character who became a person, but like, I don't know. I feel like if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, all that to say that's how I discovered all of your stuff, and then started getting into the Betches stuff and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just a whole world of things, ways that I keep myself clothed and fed.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I forget if you said this on the roast or if you said this on another podcast, but you said this and it made me laugh so hard. And it was that somebody commented on one of your videos, one of the most accurate things, and it was like that your voice sounds like Bart Simpson.
Yes. Someone was like, it was a response to we do like a little sizzle reel when the roast comes out, and
Right.
All Things Comedy will post it, and they go, this chick sounds like Bart Simpson. And I was like, oh, that's true, though. I'm always like, hey, man. Like,
Yeah, it wasn't even the fact that they said that made me laugh. The reason why it made me laugh was because you were like, it's so true, because whenever I walk in a room, I'm always like, hey, dude. And I just started laughing
that's
so
really
hard.
mean. Just being like, what's going on, man?
Yeah, and it's like,
What up?
you don't even actually sound like him, but you have the essence of him, and that's
Yeah.
what's so funny to me.
And you know that voice actress who does his voice, I'm forgetting her name now, but she's like an icon of voice acting.
Nancy
and
Cartwright.
it's a woman and does Nancy
Yeah.
Cartwright, exactly.
Yeah.
I want to sign up for her master class because I
She's
do
great.
voiceover now. So I was like, you know what? I'll take it that I sound like Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
It's a very difficult voice to pull off. if you can do it. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, Nancy Cartwright is awesome for sure. And so that kind of dovetails into the next thing we were going to talk about, our cartoon president. You're on that. Yeah.
I am. I play Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on that show. And that was my first series regular gig on anything. That was first voiceover gig on anything. And I just love the show. It's great. That show is all the same people who do Tuning Out the News, which I also work on, and it's just great people.
Yeah, absolutely. And was it through an audition, or did they just listen to your podcast and were like, that's the person?
It was through an audition. I taped it on my phone. I thought, there's no way in a million years I'm going to get this. I think I even sent it in late, and my manager was like, are you submitting to this? And I was like, oh, yeah, fine. And I recorded it, and then I got it.
That's awesome.
And I was like, fuck. And
it's funny how that works.
I'm truly so happy. It's so much. Yeah, it really is. Like, you really just never know.
It's the ones you never care about.
You can spend hours on an audition and hear nothing, and then it could be the one that you sent in last minute, just recorded on the fly on your phone. Like, you just never know.
That's why I'll never understand auditions, and I'll never understand social media for the same reason, because the more effort I put into it, the less anyone cares, and the less effort I put into it, the bigger it is. Like, it goes viral, and it's
absolutely,
and it's like, I don't even care.
That you didn't think about for the thing that you didn't think about for even a second is the thing that pops off or goes crazy for people. But maybe it's that improv thing of like, it's really coming, those like one-off things that you didn't even think about really come from like a very pure place.
Yeah.
That's maybe even funnier than your mind that's like trying to
telling you something. It is that childlike wonder. It is the moment that you are not thinking is the moment that everyone wants to see. And
the moment you're just like, you know what, this is so stupid, I'm just gonna throw this thought out there, and it's like actually the exact stupid thing that everybody wanted.
Of course. Yeah. And so I want to ask you these last two questions here. Great. And there's no right or wrong way to answer these questions. You can answer them in a funny way, in a vulnerable way, whatever. It is completely up to you. So the first question is, what advice would you give to the childhood version of yourself?
Oh, if I could give child Alise any advice, I would say you don't have to be as scared of things. I was a really, really, really anxious and worried child, and this manifested in a lot of different ways. And I would just be like, you're safe and you don't need to be so scared of things. And you can try stuff and you don't need to be like as nervous and cautious as you are. Yeah,
that's beautiful. And now, what do you think that little Alise would think of who you are now?
Oh, I think little Alise would be very into it.
I agree.
I think I think especially, well, first of all, little Alise was into acting and stuff. So the fact that that's what I'm doing, she would be very happy. I think she would be happy that I live in New York. I think she would think that that is cool. I always had a fascination with New York City from when I was really young. I think she would find it strange that I'm 30 and I don't have 2 kids and I'm not married. Because I thought that like you got married. I remember when I was little, I thought that 16 was the year like everything happens.
Oh yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely.
So I think she would be confused about my age and why I'm not married with kids yet. But I think she would be happy to hear that I am getting married and that I'm working on it.
Yeah. That's great too. And I mean, and you've talked about how you met your fiance on other podcasts, but it's like the cutest story of all time. I love it. Yeah.
We met doing comedy at the Annoyance Theater.
Yeah. So ironic that you met at the Annoyance Theater.
Now gone, now defunct venue, but our love remains.
Yeah.
So.
I was thinking about this today. I thought this would be an interesting question to ask you. Do you have a question for my next guest? about their childhood.
Oh, a question for your next guest about their childhood.
Yeah.
What was the thing you were always getting in trouble for?
What was the thing you were always getting in trouble for? Okay.
That is, I love that.
That would be
I
interesting,
think
right?
that's great. And so that's my question, because I love child antics.
Oh, yeah. That's, yeah, I had a lot of those for sure.
I love antics.
Yeah.
So-
One day when I'm famous enough, I will be on the roast of your teenage self. And we'll talk all about it.
Sooner, but yes, we will talk all about the antics then.
Yeah.
Hopefully the live show comes back. That would be great.
That would be so fun for sure.
But
Yeah.
Anyway.
Where can people find you? Plug away, plug all of your podcasts, you know, our cartoon president, all that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, Cartoon Press and Tuning Up the News are off for the season, but we should be back. So keep an eye out for that. You can find me on Instagram at Pandalise. That's Pandalise. And on Twitter at Alise Navidad. ALISENAVIDAD. It's like Feliz Navidad. It's fun to say. And listen to the Roast of Your Teenage Self podcast on all your little apps. I also do a podcast with Betches called The Betches Sup, where we talk about the news. You can check that out on all your little apps as well.
That's great. I love it. And for me, you can find me on Instagram at Mike Valdes, on Twitter at I am Mike Valdes, and you can go to whoismikevaldes.com to find out the answer to that question. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe, tell your friends so we can grow this family. Bye, besties.
Bye.
We did it.
That was so much fun. I'm sorry I bought weed in the middle. I wasn't anticipating that happening.
That's the Instagram clip right there.
I'm sorry that I had to stop to buy weed. Leave it in.
So good. That was a Geek Bro podcast. For more podcasts like this one, visit geekbro.net.